Merry Christmas, friends, and thank you for joining us. My name is Lori McClure from Faith Gateway, and I'm so glad to have our friend Lee Strobel with us today. He's the author of The Case for Christmas. Lee, thanks so much for being with us today.
Well, I'm glad to be with you. Merry Christmas, everyone. It's a great season, and I'm very excited about this new Bible study based on my book, The Case for Christmas. I think it's going to be a fun experience for everybody involved.
Hey, Lee, for anybody who hasn't experienced any of your books before, would you give us just a brief background of you and your family?
Sure. I was an atheist for much of my life, and so all my books kind of come from that perspective in terms of someone who was a skeptic about faith issues. My background's in journalism and law, so you can imagine, put those two things together, what kind of a jerk or skeptic that you get. And my wife, Leslie, who was agnostic, through the influence of a Christian friend, became a Christian. And I decided to use my journalism and legal training to try to dissuade her from that, try to get her out of this cult that she was involved in. And so I spent 2 years of my life using my journalism and legal training to systematically investigate, is there any credibility for Christianity or any other world religion? So as I say, it was about 1 year and 9 months that I was on that investigation, ultimately becoming convinced that the evidence from science, cosmology, physics, biochemistry, genetics, human consciousness points toward the existence of a supernatural creator. And then the evidence of history, especially the resurrection of Jesus with the empty tomb, the 9 sources that confirm eyewitness accounts, the early accounts that cannot be legendary and so forth, convinced me that Jesus not only claimed to be the Son of God, but he backed up that claim by returning from the dead. So on November the 8th of 1981, I reached my verdict in the case for Christ, which is that Jesus is who he claimed to be, yielded my life to him, and my life has taken on a whole new direction ever since. I ended up leaving journalism several years later and written a series of books. And my books are unique because, I don't pose as the expert. I go to the experts, people with PhDs in relevant areas, and cross-examine them and ask the tough questions I had back when I was a skeptic to see if they can give good answers. And so my books, therefore, are appropriate for Christians to deepen their faith, understand why they believe what they believe, but also for non-believers, people who are spiritually curious, who want to investigate, as I did, the evidence for God.
A lot of us saw, at least I did, the Case for Christ movie, which was just absolutely wonderful. I loved it. How did the movie come about?
The movie, we were so happy with how it turned out. Most movies based on true stories are tangentially related to the actual events. Ours is about 85% accurate. There had to be some time shifting and some composite characters, just given the fact you have to compress 2 years of experience into 90 minutes. But we were very happy with how accurate the film is in depicting our life, our marriage, and my spiritual investigation. It came about because almost 20 years after I wrote my book, The Case for Christ, I got a phone call from PureFlix, the producers of God's Not Dead and many other great Christian films. And they asked me if it'd be okay if they made a film based on my story. And I thought, you know what? A lot of people won't read a 300-page book, but they'll watch a 90-minute movie. So we said, sure. And we've been thrilled with the results. It's one of the top 20 Christian movies ever. Had a tremendous response all around the world, especially South Korea, especially in France, which was highly unexpected. That in some places like Grenoble, it was in theaters for up to 9 weeks because of word of mouth, people coming. I think people are spiritually curious. And so we're thrilled with how the film came about. By the way, working on a new film based on my new book, The Case for Miracles. So you can expect that in the coming year or so.
I was just about to say to you that you've written so many Case for books over the years, and my favorite is The Case for Miracles. So I'm super excited about that. Now, what's that?
It's great to hear that you like the book. That's wonderful.
I love it. Now, why did you write The Case for Christmas specifically?
Well, I grew up as an atheist, as a skeptic, and I enjoy Christmas season. What's not to like? You have parties, you give gifts, you I just enjoyed it. It was fun because I sort of filtered out all the spiritual dimensions of the holiday. And so I enjoyed it, but of course I was a skeptic about its roots. I figured the virgin birth was an idea stolen from earlier mythology. I figured that this idea of Jesus, if he ever lived, the accounts in the Gospels surely can't be accurate. So I kind of dismissed the whole thing as being overblown legend, make believe, wishful thinking, and mythology. So I wrote it because I wanted people to see what I discovered in my investigation, which is that there is good evidence for the biblical accounts of the birth of Jesus. So Christmas, now there's some things, some traditions that have crept into the church and so forth that are not historically reliable, but there's a lot that we deal with in this course that kind of sets the record straight in terms of what actually happened with the birth of Jesus.
Could be kind of annoying for some people when it's not full of magic and wonder. I know a lot of bah humbuggers myself. How do you encourage people who might be a little jaded about Christmas when there's so much Christmas cheer around us this season and they just don't feel that way?
Well, Christmas takes on a whole new dimension when you consider the possibility that it's true. I think a lot of people get jaded toward Christmas because they get caught up in the commercialization of the holiday and so forth, and the fact that you lose sight of what is true and what isn't true. There's a lot about Christmas. You go from Santa Claus to even the account of the innkeeper that told Mary and Joseph there's no room in the inn. Well, that probably never happened, as my course points out. But when we look at the actual bedrock historically, what we can know about the birth of Jesus, I think it really brings alive the holiday in a fresh new way. And we begin to consider not just the fact that, we have these nice traditions for Christmas, but we begin to consider the fact that this is based on reality, that Jesus really was born in a manger, that he left his throne in heaven, that he came into this world for a purpose, which was out of his love for us, to redeem us, to open the gates of heaven for us, and so forth. So I think when we consider the possibility that Easter is true, it takes on a whole new dimension, and I think it chases away a lot of the mundane aspects that we get tired of year after year with the holiday.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, a lot of us who are doing this study are already Jesus followers,
Yeah.
but some are just maybe just curious about Jesus, or they just want to enjoy the holiday season more. What can we expect from the study? What new things are we going to learn through this study?
Well, I think there's a lot. I think for Christians and for those who are just spiritually curious, I think there's something for each group in this study. For instance, we're going to go into the archaeological evidence. We're going to go into the historical evidence. We're going to look at what really took place with the birth of Jesus. And I think for Christians, it enriches our faith, it encourages us, and it helps us do what 1 Peter 3:15 says, which is to always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks us to give the reason for the hope that we have. And so that we can talk intelligently about the holiday and not kind of separate the holiday from the holy day. What really took place separated from the traditions that have built up over the centuries. So I think it's just fascinating on that level. And for us to determine, does a virgin birth make sense? Is it credible? Why is it credible? What historical evidence is it? Why don't two of the Gospels talk about the virgin birth? That's a good question. Can we trust the gospel accounts when they talk about the birth of Jesus? Why? How early were they written? How do we know the authors are really who they claim to be? Wasn't the virgin birth just stolen from earlier mythology, like Mithraism and some of these Persian and Roman myths that perhaps also talked about a virgin birth? Well, all these questions I think are fascinating. And I think we walk away, if we're a Christian, with a more solid faith, with a deeper appreciation of the holiday, so we can celebrate it in a whole new fashion. And for spiritually curious people, I think this might be a turning point for them, that they might come walking away from this experience thinking, you know what? I can trust what the Gospels tell me about Jesus, and therefore I can trust what they tell me about me and my need for God and my need to have a relationship with Jesus Christ.
So, what do you hope will happen for those of us as we go through this study? Those of us who are obviously already believe in Jesus, or some who don't consider themselves a Christian. When we get to the end of the study, what do you hope will happen?
I hope for Christians they will have a different experience on Christmas morning. That they will have a new appreciation for the historical evidence that gives us confidence that Jesus is who he claimed to be. That the Christmas story is not mythology, legend, make believe, or wishful thinking, but an actual historical event that took place. And for those who have started the course as spiritual seekers or people who are spiritually curious, I hope it leads to further study. I hope they walk away saying, you know what, I'm a little bit surprised. I walked into this thinking, oh, how can you really trust what is written 2,000 years ago about the birth in the Middle East of this child in a manger? But they'll walk away saying, wait a minute, there is good historical data for the birth of Jesus. And then, we put together a new course called the Case for Easter that'll be released around Easter. And that'll be a great opportunity to go the next step to determine whether or not Jesus not only claimed to be the Son of God, but he backed up that claim by returning from the dead.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. I'm really looking forward to it. All right, Lee, just a couple of light questions. What is your favorite Christmas tradition?
Oh, golly. It's fun how they kind of morph over the years because now I've got grandchildren. I have 4 grandchildren. And one's 13 years old and the youngest is 5. And so we have a bit of a range in there in terms of how they understand Christmas and how they respond to Christmas. So we get the joy and the fun of just the real little ones who are all excited about the gifts and about the traditions and so forth. And then we have the older ones who themselves are coming into their understanding of faith and watching them discover the truth of Christianity and the reality of Christmas. So we love getting everybody together on Christmas. And my grandchildren in California will fly into Texas, where the rest of us live. And all 4 grandkids will get together. One of the traditions is we get new pajamas that match for all the grandkids. And then we get a picture of them in their new pajamas. That's kind of a tradition we have. Another tradition that we have as a family is we watch It's a Wonderful Life, which is my favorite movie. Frank Capra's classic Christmas movie with Donna Reed. And it's just my favorite film. And so we watch that. In fact, I actually got the script for the movie. And one year we tried to act it out using the script. It was a disaster. It didn't work. But we love the movie, and it really sets a great tone for the holiday.
Oh, that's so fun. I am a sucker for a good old-fashioned Christmas Eve candlelight service.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so Lee, what is your favorite Christmas carol?
Oh man, there's so many. I'll tell you my favorite line of all the Christmas carols, when it says, "God and sinners reconcile." That's my favorite line of all the Christmas carols. God and sinners reconcile. That's what Christmas is about. It's about God entering into this world that he created for us, this habitat that he lovingly crafted where we can flourish, and shining a light into the darkness and showing us a way to live, but even more than that, a way to die and to be with him for eternity in heaven. God and sinners reconcile. It's those of us who have wandered, people like me who live very immoral and wild, drunken lives, as a skeptic in my case, as an atheist. And yet, through Jesus Christ, through his atoning death on the cross, I can be reconciled with God and spend eternity with him forever. I mean, that to me, that single line, God and sinners reconciled, is my favorite.
Yeah, talk about joy to the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Friends, if you want to grab your friends, your neighbors, your relatives, and ask them to join the study with us, they can go to studygateway.com/OBS and register and go through the study together. What a fun thing to do. Also, if you haven't gotten your materials yet, you can go to store.faithgateway.com and you can use your coupon code CC 2018 to get $3 off, plus free shipping for just the next 2 days through midnight on Wednesday night. Also, for more information on Lee, you can go to leestrobel.com and find Lee on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Lee, any final thoughts?
Boy, you know, I love Twitter. You just mentioned Twitter, and my name on Twitter is at Lee Strobel. And I've got about 200,000 friends on Twitter, and we really do interact. We really enjoy communicating with each other. If you're on Twitter, join us there. If you're on Facebook, join our Facebook page. Love to continue the dialogue with you and continue a relationship. And I'd love to see you back for the Case for Easter, to go the next step, because the historical data for the resurrection of Jesus stunned me when I was an atheist, how reliable it is. So I'm glad y'all are part of this. If you haven't decided yet, or if you're still on the fence, please join us for the Case for Christmas. The book is also, you know, a fun thing to give away at Christmas. You know, it's very inexpensive, and you can give that away to people. I leave a nice tip at a restaurant, and I also leave a copy of the book, The Case for Christmas. And you get that at any online retailer for like $1 each, and it's a fun thing to be able to give away stocking stuff for this Christmas season.
Lee, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, I know everybody's so excited to start our study today. And I just want to say thank you and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Merry Christmas to you, to all the people watching. God bless you all.